Well, hello there. My name is Lee Thurburn, and you have joined Livestream Lee. I'm so glad that you are here. We meet every day at 3 o'clock, Monday through Friday at 3 o'clock here on Zoom, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Well, let's see. I said Zoom, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. I use a software package called StreamYard, which is a very popular live streaming package. If you are not familiar with it, I highly recommend it. It's a great package, easy to use and very powerful. Anyway, I stream to a variety of platforms, but LinkedIn is the probably the most watched that I stream to. So today we're going to be talking about SEO and content marketing. And I think you're going to find this interesting. I don't know if I'm going to provide you any, groundbreaking, earth-shattering insights into, how to improve your SEO. What I am hopefully going to do is give you a little bit of perspective on the sort of the fundamentals and talk to you about what the realistic expectations are for different kinds of businesses. Now, before we jump into that, I have a couple of things I'd like to cover. First of all, on Friday of this week, I'm interviewing a very special guest, Julie Thurburn. I confess that I know her quite well. I met Julie about 12 years ago doing some networking, and after a relatively lengthy time, we got married about 4 years ago. She's an awesome business owner and has a business that is very important. Her focus is helping to attract customers to you. I'm actually going to be interviewing her on Friday of this week at 3 o'clock, and she's going to describe how she does what she does and how she, kind of how she got into it. So Julie is a brand and image expert, and she will tell you and us how to attract customers. So come back on Friday of this week for that. Tomorrow on Thursday, I'm going to be talking about something I've never talked about before. It's going to be the concept of social justice and the boardroom. There's a lot of conversation right now in the general media about social justice. And I think that it is an interesting and important topic because a lot of businesses are getting caught up in social justice related positioning statements. Quite honestly, I don't think a lot of people know what social justice means. I don't think that it means what they think that it means. And in fact, I know what it means, and I know it doesn't mean what they think it means. So we're going to talk about tomorrow on Thursday, social justice, what it is and why it doesn't belong. I'll just tell you right now, it doesn't belong in the boardroom. We're going to talk about why tomorrow. And then before we jump in, I want to share something with you. If you're a fan of history, which I am, I love reading historical books and stuff. One of the best historical novels, actually not a novel, histories I ever read was Winston Churchill's 6-book volume on World War II. Fascinating book. Dan Nelson is a genealogist, and Dan publishes a newsletter. This is what I want to tell you about. He publishes a newsletter every 2 weeks. And I look forward to Dan's newsletter every other Saturday when it comes out because it is filled with incredibly interesting information. I learn things that, quite honestly, I wouldn't know if I wasn't subscribed to Dan's newsletter. If you are a history fan, if you like reading interesting historical facts, and if you love historical trivia for dinner parties, you're going to want to get signed up for Dan's newsletter. Go to livestreamlee.com, and on the right-hand side, you're going to see a button that says Dan Nelson. You can click there. You can go get signed up for his newsletter. If you decide you want to quit, you can quit. But, I get a lot of newsletters, and this is one I really look forward to. If you're a history buff, you're going to like his newsletter. All right. I also want to talk about Apricot Rocket, which is my main day job. And Apricot Rocket is an online technology designed to help businesses get customers. If you want more customers for your business, I'd like to just tell you that go to apricotrocket.com, create an account, become familiar with the system. You can create an account for free. And if you actually use the technology, I'll guarantee you that you'll get customers. Go check it out. If you need customers, we can help you solve that problem. Go to apricotrocket.com. All right, now I'm going to start talking about SEO. First of all, I want to set the expectation of what SEO is. SEO, of course, stands for search engine optimization. But SEO collectively are the things that you do to get on page one of Google. And of course, you want to be on page one of Google if that's where your customers look for you. So there are certainly some kinds of businesses where being on page one of Google doesn't really matter that much. If you have a dry cleaner, people don't typically look for a dry cleaner on page one of Google. They typically will go to and from their house and work, and on the way they're going to look and see, is there a dry cleaner on the way that I can drop my stuff off at? Now, they may go online and check out that dry cleaner and see if they get good reviews, but quite honestly, most people are just going to stop, they're going to check, they're going to try a dry cleaner, and if they do a good job, they're going to then keep going to that dry cleaner because it's convenient. There are, in fact, a lot of businesses like that. You don't typically go shop at your grocery store because you looked and found them online. There are a lot of businesses that you go to and that you interact with that have almost nothing to do with a digital presence. But there are a lot of businesses that their digital visibility is critical to their success. A great, easy example is an air conditioning repair company. If you wake up on August 15th and it's going to be 105 degrees out, and when you wake up, it's already 80 degrees outside, and you know what I'm talking about here in Texas. There are plenty of days in the summer where it's 80 degrees when you wake up. If you wake up and it's 80 degrees out and you go to turn the thermostat down because it's a little warm and you discover your air conditioner is broken, you want somebody to come and fix your air conditioning now because it's going to be a miserable day. And so you're going to go to Google, unless you have a magnet on your refrigerator because that person that fixes your AC was out there, a month or two ago. Now, then you're going to pick the magnet up and call them. But if you don't have somebody that you've recently used, you're going to be getting on Google. You're going to be typing AC repair. And maybe you live in Plano or you live in some town. You're going to type AC repair and the town name, and you're going to see who comes up, and you're going to start dialing for dollars. And that's the way it works. If you're the AC company that does AC repairs and you want to get that phone call, you need to be on page one of Google. There are a ton of businesses where being on page one of Google is incredibly important to getting fresh business, to getting new business. Those are the businesses we're talking to here. Those are the businesses that need to have good, solid search engine optimization and content marketing. We're going to start with search engine optimization and see how far we get today. First of all, search engine optimization is a process. It is not a one and done event. Okay, you don't do it one time to your website and build a website and then you do all kinds of special stuff to it and it becomes magically search engine optimized and you just wait, sit back and get found. That is not the way it works. Search engine optimization is a process. And if you want to succeed, you have to realize that all of your competitors, just like you, they want to be on page one of Google. And there's only 10 spots that you can be in. So for you to get one of those 10 spots means you've got to do something other than just design a great looking website. You've got to do things to support that website. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And to do that, I actually have a slide deck that I've prepared. And, I really kind of hate doing slide decks because they're honestly not the most interesting things in the world, but there's so much information to present. I don't really know a good way to do this without covering some slide decks. So I'm going to kind of jump through some slides. Let me go ahead and bring my slide deck in here. So I'm going to get rid of this graphic and I'm going to bring the slide deck up. The first thing I want to do is I want you to know that Pagerank, which is is a term that generally describes the authority that your website has. Pagerank is actually a term that describes the authority of your website. And in fact, because Larry Page was one of the founders of Google, and because his last name happened to also kind of correspond with website pages, they actually built the concept of PageRank partly around his name and partly around the fact that it actually describes the authority of an individual web page. And Google came up with a way of generating, and this was 20 years ago, they came up with a novel way of generating a numerical indicator of the authority of a page. And it's a lot like, really fundamentally, and it's important for you to understand these fundamentals because they shift over time. Fundamentally, it's a lot like a physics paper. If you're a doctoral student, and by the way, Larry Page and Sergey Brin were both doctoral students in Stanford when they launched Google. And so they were very familiar with the concept of writing doctoral dissertations. And in a doctoral dissertation, it's critical that you reference the work of other academic authorities that went before you, and you build on their foundation. And so if you think of somebody like Albert Einstein, and you think about the incredible brilliance that he had and the critical paradigm shift in how he saw the universe when he wrote his theory of relativity and special theory of relativity, and he produced those documents and published them, he changed the way physics worked ever since then. So pretty much every physics doctoral dissertation since Albert Einstein has referenced Albert Einstein. They have a footnote that points to Albert Einstein's theory of relativity or special theory of relativity, and they reference some aspect of that, and then they build on it. That reference is like a PageRank reference. That is a referential authority. And so PageRank is a way of measuring how important your page is to the grand scheme of things. How many other websites reference you? And so there's this concept of PageRank that we're going to build on. So I need to find my, here we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and click through here. So hopefully you can see this, but PageRank is on a scale of 0 to 10. And every brand new website, when it's created, has a PageRank of 0, and then it works its way up. Now, the fact is that it's not a logarithmically simple number like a power of 10, like I show here. But I'm going to show it anyway, even though if you go research it, you'll find that it's something like 8.65 to each step. Forget that. Just think of it as a logarithmic power of 10. So what that means is a PageRank of 4 is 10 times more important than a PageRank of 3, which is 10 times more important than a PageRank of 2, and so on. So as you can tell, to become a PageRank 10 is an incredibly powerful testimony to the importance of that PageRank. That's kind of like Albert Einstein. That's kind of like the authority that he references or represents in the world of physics. He's a PageRank 10, right? And so if I'm a brand new doctor of physics writing a paper, I probably have a PageRank authority of a 2 or something like that, maybe even a 1. My point is that PageRank is something that grows over time. So authority grows over time. Now, I'm going to go ahead and jump down to something else. I want to show you some things that affect PageRank. And I've got a couple of different graphics here that I want to show you. First, there's a number of things that affect PageRank. Over time, since Google launched, the factors that are utilized to determine the importance of a website have evolved. The first two things that were important were considered to be traffic and links. Okay, so the amount of traffic you got and the number of links that went to your website were the two key indicators of the importance of your website. Now, that's the foundational algorithm, and it has been added to and built upon. But initially, you could do things like just manipulate the number of links that were inbound from other websites to your website. And that would have a major impact on Google's determination of how important your website was. So one of the things that a lot of people did initially was they built links to websites, and they would use link farms, and they would use directories and things like that to put links into a target website to build the authority of that website. And that worked for a long time, but it quit working. And probably in the late 2000s, like 2008 through 2010, 2011, is the point in time when Google began to start to evolve their algorithm and make it more restrictive. So I used to do a lot of SEO back in the late 2000s, and it was pretty easy to get a major movement on a website page by simply creating content and building links from other websites back to a website. So that was a very effective thing. It's less effective now, but the number of links coming into your website is one of the still foundational things that tell Google how important your website is. It's kind of like the number of papers that reference Albert Einstein. If you're another doctoral candidate or you're a PhD in physics and you publish a paper, and a whole bunch of new students, when they get their doctoral dissertation, they start referencing your paper, that makes your paper progressively more and more important over time. So that's what links effectively do. Now, the page rank of the link source to your website is also important. So a good way to think of this is something like CNN. CNN is an extremely popular news website. And because they get so much traffic from their website, if they publish a link to your website, you're going to get a lot of traffic. So let's just say for a moment that you're an attorney that writes documents. You do a lot of work, say, in China, and you do a lot of contract work with Chinese companies, and you write an article, and CNN does a news story about China, and they reference your website because you've published a lot of, legal articles about Chinese contracts. Well, you're going to get a lot of people visiting your website from CNN. So the link from the CNN website, which has large page rank, is going to give you a lot of authority. It's also going to give you a lot of traffic, which is also a big deal. But LinkedIn is not a law school. If the SMU School of Law, or even better yet, the Harvard School of Law, were to provide a link to you because you're an authority about Chinese contracts, Google would see that link and they would say, wow, this is a link from a big time law school to you as an attorney, so you must have good stuff. And so they're going to look at the size of the website, the nature of the website, the relevance of the content on the website, the amount of traffic the websites get, and all of that impacts the relative value of that link from that website to you. Also, in the mid to late 2000s, Google began to make an adjustment for social media. As Facebook in the latter half of the 2000s became important and popular, and LinkedIn and other social media websites started to gain popularity, Google began to measure the amount of social media activity relative to your website. So if somebody put a post in a Facebook post and it was a link to your website, Google would notice that, and they would actually start giving credit for that. So they started tracking social media mentions, and activity. If there was a link on Twitter and that link was to your website that was valuable, but a repost of a Twitter post with a link to your website, or a repost, a sharing of a Facebook post with a link to your website, that became even more valuable, because anytime somebody shares something, Google thinks that must be an indication that it's important or valuable because people are sharing it. So those kinds of things began to be factored into the algorithm to decide what was important. Of course, number of visitors that you get is always important. And that you can think of that as really just simply, are you doing advertising to promote your website? If you're doing advertising to promote your website and you're getting a lot of traffic, Google is going to see that traffic, and they're going to just figure that, hey, if there's a lot of people going to your website, there's a reason, it must be important. So they give you an increase in importance ranking based upon the amount of traffic. They also look at other things. If you put videos on your website, LinkedIn knows that videos are important. And as it turns out, the number 2 search engine in the world is actually YouTube. LinkedIn is number 1 and YouTube is number 2. I think Facebook might be 3rd or 4th. But in any event, YouTube is an incredibly important search engine. So when you put a video on your website, if you put it on YouTube before you put it on your website, and then you embed the YouTube video on your website, because Google owns YouTube, they give special importance to that. So they look at the number of videos you have, especially the ones that are on YouTube and then reposted on your website. They also look at the quantity and the quality of the content on your website. So one of the things that you want to do is to create good quality content and a large quantity of content. So Google actually looks at how often you refresh your website with content. Now, there's some other things that Google has added relatively recently to this mix. So reviewing, it's the number of links that come in, the amount of traffic that comes in, the relevance of the website, the amount of social media mentions and reposts. Those are the fundamentals now, but in the last couple of years, Google's added some additional metrics that it measures, and they are the stickiness of your website. They kind of relate to stickiness. It's actually a term called engagement. And Google measures things like how long do people spend on your website and how many different places on your website do people go. And that measures the relative value of the content. Naturally, people that find great value in the content that you have on your website are going to spend more time on your website. So one of the ways Google is able to determine whether or not your website is important is how much time people spend on your website, looking at the content on your website. And that kind of leads us into the importance of content marketing. And so we're going to touch on that. But before I go too much farther, I want to just cover a couple of things. First of all, this little graphic right here, your website is the big dot in the middle, and Google looks at links and traffic. When they look at links, they look at the number of links, they look at the relevance of the links, they look at the importance of the websites that are delivering links to you, they look at social traffic from Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and TikTok and all of these other social websites that have cropped up. And they measure those and they give a different ranking of importance in each one of those factors. And then they look at the traffic, and they look at the traffic and they ask themselves the question, is it direct, link, or search traffic? Direct traffic would be the following. If I asked you to get me information, rephrase that. If I were to ask you, hey, where do I go to get information about Mickey Mouse? Chances are pretty good you'd just tell me Disney.com. You don't need to look it up. You don't need to go to a search engine. You don't need to tell me to go to some other website to get the link. you know the link. And so I'm just going to take your advice. I'm going to type Disney.com directly into my browser, and I'm going to go straight there. That means that I know Disney, and Disney is important enough for me to know their link. That direct traffic, Google can sense that traffic, that it is direct traffic, that it's not a search or link related traffic, and they give the highest ranking of value to that kind of traffic. The next highest value is link traffic, which you can see on the right-hand side of the diagram. And then the third is search traffic. If I have to go to Google to be able to find, or if I have to go to Bing, Google doesn't like hearing that, but if I have to go to some other search engine like DuckDuckGo or somewhere else to find a Disney, that means Disney isn't important enough for me to know it. And so they look at direct, then link, and then search generated traffic in that sequence of importance. There's a couple of important phrases that you need to know, or thoughts. First, the keywords are, of course, the way people search. And as a business owner, you need to think about the keywords from the perspective of your customer. I might be a mesothelioma attorney, but my clients think about asbestos cancer or asbestos lung cancer. So I'm going to want to optimize my website for asbestos lung cancer, probably more importantly than mesothelioma. Now, that's just an example of understanding how your clients search for you. But a long tail search is an important thing to understand, because a long tail search means that the longer the phrase being typed in, the more specific the problem is, and the more likely the person who is doing the search, the more likely they are to actually be ready to make a purchase. And a great way to think about this is chiropractors. There's a gazillion chiropractors in the world. And if I just simply type chiropractor, that just tells Google I don't know what I'm looking for, because I haven't typed anything in particular to qualify what kind of chiropractor I'm looking for. Now, if I type Plano chiropractor, they at least know, Google knows that I'm looking for a chiropractor in Plano. But if I type Plano back pain chiropractor or Plano child sports injury chiropractor, now Google knows I'm looking for a very specific thing. And when you, as a website owner, are trying to get traffic, you want to look at long tail searches as opposed to short searches. There's a lot of volume for short searches, but the long tail searches are the ones that are going to be the easiest for you to get found on page one of Google, and the easiest for you to defensively support that position. Okay. You know what? I'm running out of time. I thought I could cover more than I am actually able to cover. So I'm going to pick up search engine marketing, which is actually pay per click marketing, as a separate topic next week. So I'll probably do this on Monday. In fact, let's just plan on Monday of next week. I'm going to cover that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to close out for today. I want to talk about one thing. I use a company called Cartuzo for search engine optimization. They're out of England. They do a great job. And I'm going to tell you what is a reasonable expectation. I pay $500 a month and they get great results. But that only covers about 10 search terms. It takes several months for a company to be able to get results for you. Search engine optimization is an important component of your marketing strategy. It is not one that is going to deliver instantaneous benefits to you and instantaneous results. For that, you're going to need other kinds of digital marketing. A realistic expectation for a search engine optimization, an SEO marketing plan, is to spend somewhere between $500 and $1,000 a month and expect it to take anywhere between 30 or 60 days on the short end up to 3 to 6 months to start seeing realistic results. Once the impact of search engine optimization marketing begins to have the building effect that it will, then you will get results of having your website show up for a variety of search terms on page 1 of Google. But it's not going to be in 3 to 6 months every single search term that you'd like, because you have to remember your competition is constantly working to get you knocked off of page 1 of Google and get themselves there. So the search engine optimization game is a game that you have to play for the long haul. It is not an instant return game. It's a process, not an event, and it has a cost that is not insignificant. Depending upon the kind of company that you have and the kind of products that you sell, if you're selling homes that are $500,000 homes, you only need 1 or 2 homes a year and you've knocked a home run. So, you know, the benefit and the cost benefit trade-off of search engine optimization has to be evaluated for each kind of business. But when you do it, you need to think realistically, there's going to be a measurable and not insignificant cost and a measurable, not insignificant amount of time needed for it to have a benefit for your company. If you need an instantaneous payoff, you need something other than search engine optimization. All right, so I'm done. I do want to close out with one mention. You've heard me tell you about this guy before. One of the biggest challenges in business is you don't know what you don't know. And one of the ways you find out that you don't know what you don't know is when something bad happens. Well, when something bad happens, you need somebody like Carlos Cantu in your corner. Carlos is a commercial risk management specialist. This is what he does all day long. And you need, if you have a business, you need somebody in your corner that thinks about risk and can help you plan for risks so that when they do occur, the minimum impact occurs to your business. Carlos is a great guy. He's very knowledgeable. Go to livestreamlead.com and you're going to see a button on the right-hand side that says Carlos Cantu. Click on it to be able to learn more about Carlos. Set up a time to talk to him. You will be glad you did. He is a great guy to get to know, and he'll protect you, help you protect yourself from those things that you didn't know you needed to be concerned about. Also, go to apricotrocket.com, create an account. Let's see here. Where's my link? Oh, here it is. Go to apricotrocket.com. You need customers. We can deliver. Go get an account and learn how to use the system and let us help you get some customers. Thank you for watching today, and we'll see you tomorrow when we talk about social justice in the boardroom. Bye now.